went to Dick Cheney's funeral yesterday. We can do this, people. It's Thanksgiving. Do yourself a favor, get over yourself, and go have it with your family.
Bill Maher recently explained why he is finally stepping away from the left, and the announcement was far more striking than most anticipated. While he has debated progressive ideas for years, few expected him to draw a definitive line. Maher spoke plainly. The left has strayed so far from its original principles that unless it makes substantial changes soon, whatever influence it still holds may vanish entirely. He warned that the party risks losing credibility and relevance if it doesn't course correct, making this a rare, blunt critique from someone who has long been considered a liberal voice.
Happy Thanksgiving. I can't believe that even that now is a political issue. It is a real shame what's happened to this holiday, which used to be all about the good F's, food, friends, family, football, fun. And now it's fuck you. You're not even invited because you voted for the wrong person. I'm so tired of liberals ghosting half this country. Conservatives do it too, but not nearly as much. Look, whoever's doing it, it's got to stop, because we're at a point now where politics has broken up more families than letting your wife see your phone.
Maher lists several reasons for his break from the left, but he concludes with what he believes is the most critical point. The left has lost faith in basic science. Agree or disagree, he argues, it's difficult to ignore groups that treat biological facts as optional or assume identity can simply be changed at will. Maher claims that pretending logic still governs these debates has become nearly impossible. He stresses that there comes a moment when one must call things as they are, a rejection of essential scientific principles that underpins much of the ideological drift he sees today.
Liberal side, there's two camps now. The we need to keep talking to people wing and the go no contact wing. That's what they call it now, go no contact. This belief that Trump voters, even if it's your own parents, are too deplorable for human contact and must be cut off. You know, like Scientologists do to suppressive people. A former speechwriter for Obama named David Litt wrote an op-ed this year called, "Is it time to stop snubbing your right-wing family?" where he admitted he'd had a change of heart and that was the wrong approach. So, of course, then the woke wing tried to banish him for breaking ranks on their policy of hating people who don't agree with you on everything, because what fun is life if you're not cutting somebody off?
According to Maher, the left's intense focus on gender identity significantly contributed to its election losses. He believes they pushed the conversation far beyond everyday reasoning, moving into territory most Americans neither requested nor supported. Instead of concentrating on practical issues like public safety, schools, and the economy, energy was spent on redefining basic biological concepts and demanding unquestioning compliance. Maher emphasizes that this extreme approach didn't merely frustrate moderates, it cost them a substantial block of voters. By turning a narrow ideological dispute into a nationwide issue, the left set itself up for failure, and the election results made that reality unmistakably clear.
Molly McNerney, Jimmy Kimmel's wife and head writer, went public on this topic recently, so I feel it's fair to comment respectfully in public. She says she's lost relationships with relatives because she wrote them an email before the election with 10 reasons why they shouldn't vote for Trump, and some still didn't obey. So, 10 reasons. I can think of 100. But I would never present it to someone as an ultimatum. Ultimatums don't make people rethink their politics. They make them rethink you.
Maher also cites the left's growing fascination with socialism as another reason for his frustration. He argues that socialism is not just theoretically flawed. In practice, it is a political risk with predictable negative outcomes. Maher feels the Democratic Party isn't genuinely committed to these policies, and by clinging to them, it drags progress backward. He notes that Americans have observed enough global examples to understand how socialism typically unfolds, and most are cautious about gambling their future on it. Maher contends that the public simply does not trust the vision the left is promoting, yet the party presses forward, ignoring the warning signs, a recipe for political self-destruction in his view.
Somewhere along the way, my values became code for I'm the only one with a moral compass. You know what would have been a better exercise? Write a top 10 list to yourself where you try to imagine 10 reasons why 77 million Americans didn't want to trust you with taking power. And I say that as someone who votes Democratic. As I like to remind my very pure friends, we voted for the same person. You're just why she
Lawmakers often portray socialism as a refined, stable, and enduring system, but Maher disagrees. He predicts that New York, for example, is likely to repeat the same patterns that have trapped numerous countries in the past. Socialism, he argues, consistently produces economic strain, overextended government control, and a gradual erosion of personal freedom. History, he points out, does not change in New York, it repeats itself. The lessons of past failures, Maher emphasizes, have already been written and demonstrated multiple times, yet the same mistakes continue to be made.
I really not get it at this point. Everything with him is done through personal relationships. He's a people guy. Trust me, he's not at home at night poring over the briefing books. This is government by people are saying. If anything, we need more people like me having dinner with him. You complain he's surrounded.
In this broader context, Maher places the blame squarely on the Democratic Party for spreading what he calls the woke virus. He asserts that the party abandoned the practical priorities of its core supporters, jobs, safety, affordability, and everyday stability, and instead immersed itself in ideological debates most Americans never asked for. Rather than creating policies that would tangibly improve people's lives, Democrats became absorbed in gender identity discussions, treating them as the centerpiece of modern politics. Maher believes that this obsession has seeped into American culture as a whole. Even once iconic companies were not immune. For example, Playboy magazine shifted from reflecting mainstream cultural values to echoing the dominant themes of the political left.
Also can't become what the UK is now. A place where you get arrested for tweets. Something that happens 12,000 times a year now in Britain. Last week, the Irish sitcom writer Graham Linehan, who's won an Emmy and 5 BAFTA awards, got off a plane at Heathrow and got arrested by 5 British cops. Not because he was selling drones to the Houthis, just because he's a crank who spends way too much time online ranting about gender ideology, which is an odd obsession for a comedian from across the pond, because if men weren't allowed to dress as women, British comedy wouldn't exist.
For Maher, this cultural transformation illustrates just how far the Democratic Party has moved away from its roots. By prioritizing fringe ideological goals over urgent societal concerns, the party didn't merely lose political power, it alienated the very people it claimed to represent, reshaping American institutions in the process. He notes that any organization embracing the woke trend eagerly faced significant consequences. Adopting these positions, Maher argues, became more than a cultural gamble. For many major brands, it turned into a financial disaster. Companies that once dominated their industries suddenly alienated loyal customers, undermined their core brand identity, and strayed from the principles that had driven their success.
Hypocrite and defend attacks on speech from the left, because you either get the concept or you don't. And sadly, a lot of people don't anymore. Yes, mostly the young who were never taught it by their derelict educational system. But also Lisa Cook. She's the Fed board member Trump is trying to fire for bullshit reasons, and they are bullshit. But when she tried to get another professor fired because he once, according to one student, was less than rapturous about Martin Luther King Day, no, she should know better. She said free speech should have its limits. Yes, it should, and does. And this comes nowhere close to them.
For some companies, the fallout was swift and severe. Stock values dropped, revenues declined, and longtime supporters walked away. Playboy, once a defining cultural force, lost the audience that had supported it for decades after attempting a woke reinvention. Budweiser faced one of the sharpest consumer backlashes in recent corporate history after embracing controversial social messaging. Even retail giants like Sears fell into the same trap, prioritizing virtue signaling over the core values that had previously sustained them. Maher argues that these companies misread their customers and miscalculated the risks, and the market responded accordingly, often harshly.
In the words of that great Brit Ricky Gervais, if you don't believe in a person's right to say things that you might find grossly offensive, then you don't believe in freedom of speech. You shouldn't have to eat your words at the airport. The chicken Alfredo on the flight was bad enough. So, Linehan may be crude, but there's plenty of non-crazy people, liberal people, who think the left has gone a little mad with trans issues. Some have expressed that opinion with literary sophistication, like J.K. Rowling. Some by getting big laughs, like Dave Chappelle. And some are downright ugly about it, like Linehan. But ugly is the price of a freedom so great as speech.
By turning away from the very people who had supported them in favor of ideological approval, the left faced significant consequences. Maher points out that while the Democratic Party pursued a cultural and progressive agenda, Donald Trump was out on the campaign trail offering concrete solutions that resonated with everyday Americans, promises centered on the economy, national security, and job growth. In contrast, the left focused heavily on debates over gender identity and the participation of trans women in sports. While important to some, these issues mattered little to most voters, who were more concerned about crime, paychecks, and the overall state of the country. Maher emphasizes that this disconnect had a major impact on the election. By prioritizing abstract cultural arguments over pressing practical concerns, the left inadvertently handed Trump a significant advantage. The result was a surprising victory that left many on the left bewildered, struggling to understand why their progressive agenda, one they viewed as morally and culturally essential, failed to connect with the broader electorate. For Maher, it serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of losing touch with reality. He argues that the Democratic National Committee should have confronted its recent failures, learned from the mistakes that cost key elections, and adjusted its strategy accordingly. Instead, Maher observes, the party appears to be doubling down on the very approaches that alienated voters in the first place. To him, this is baffling. How can a political party that just lost ground due to an excessive focus on woke ideology respond by embracing an even more polarizing socialist agenda? From Maher's perspective, it defies basic political logic. Rather than working to regain voter trust, the party seems determined to push people further away. Maher stresses that this is more than a simple political misstep. It reflects a deeper disconnect between party leadership and the everyday concerns of Americans. While citizens worry about jobs, inflation, and safety, the DNC is increasingly consumed by ideological experiments with limited public support. By prioritizing socialism, gender identity issues, and woke culture over practical solutions, Maher warns the left risks repeating past mistakes, further weakening both the Democratic Party and key institutions. Meanwhile, Trump focused on tangible issues affecting everyday citizens, steadily building credibility while the left lost influence. Maher concludes with a warning. Unless the party shifts toward practical policies and reconnects with its base, it risks repeating costly errors, leaving its future uncertain.